Are you struggling to create captivating podcast cover art that stands out in a crowded market? In this episode of Podcasting Secrets, I sit down with Haley Foster, a marketing superstar from PodUp, who shares her research on what makes the top 100 Spotify podcast cover art so effective. From color palettes to font choices and the ideal number of words in your title, Haley breaks down the key elements that can help your podcast rise to the top. If you're ready to take your podcast cover art to the next level and attract more listeners, you won't want to miss this insightful conversation with Haley Foster. Welcome to the Podcasting Secrets Show, where successful creators share their best stories, secrets, and strategies. I'm your host, Nathan Gwilliam. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Podcasting Secrets. Today, I'm joined by Haley Foster. Haley Foster used to work in marketing for P.F. Chang's, and she is now one of the superstars in the marketing team of PodUp. And she has done some fascinating research about podcast cover art. And I thought it would be really fun to have her on the show today, and she could explain some of her findings to you. Thank you for joining us, Haley.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here today, and I found some really cool things that I'm excited to share.
Can you tell us about the research that you did and the methodology that you used first?
So I went into the top 100 Spotify podcasting charts, and this is just a free resource that Spotify puts out of the top 100 podcasters, and it changes every single day. And so I kind of looked at it over the course of a week and monitored the consistent top 100 charts. And I looked specifically at their podcast cover art and compared anything from the colors to the fonts to the titles and put together a little analysis for us of kind of a best practices how-to guide to create a top 100 worthy cover art.
Awesome. Can you maybe share your screen and show us what those cover art images looked like?
So in this spreadsheet, this is where I did the analysis. And so you can see some of these images here. These are some of the top 100 podcasts right now. And so as I kind of went through all of these different cover arts, I was able to really analyze the background colors, if they had their faces featured in it. I was able to look through the fonts and the font colors and all the way down to like how many words people use in their title and more.
I love it. So we can learn from this as we create our cover art and maybe learn some of the best practices that'll help us be more effective with ours. So from this research that you did of the top 100, the cover art for the top 100 Spotify podcasts, what surprised you the most?
Yeah, the thing that surprised me the most was how many podcasters had their faces or a picture of themselves in their cover art. I feel like a lot of the podcasts that I had seen or listened to, I had never really noticed that because I was so focused on the title. But 46% of the top 100 podcasts did have their photo of the host in their podcast cover art.
So almost half of them did that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, Haley, that because these people are in the top 100 Spotify podcasts and they are a little more famous, that maybe they should show their faces more than the rest of us should who aren't quite as famous?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love seeing the faces. I feel like when we listen to podcasts, we have almost this personal feel where it's like we're having a conversation with them in our living room. And I think it's really neat to be able to see the podcast hosts that you're listening to. And so I personally do really enjoy seeing the face behind the mic in their podcast cover art.
I agree. I think it helps humanize the host and kind of help build a brand around the host and help you build a better connection with that host. Okay, tell us about color palettes. Which color palettes were used most often, and what color palettes do you recommend that creators should look at when they're creating their cover art?
So 33% of people had black as their background cover art. And then as I analyzed the rest of like their secondary colors and third or fourth colors used within their cover art, I found that black was the most popular color in each of those sections. And so their most popular color palettes as a whole were black, white, and red, followed by like coming in a close second was white background images with a blue or a yellow pop. And so I thought it was really interesting. We have all of these primary colors. And so they're colors that really catch the eye within the cover art.
Yeah, definitely. How many colors have you found these top 100 Spotify podcasters use in their cover art?
We can see here in this research, we had blue, black, brown, green, gray, orange, pink, purple, red, tan, white, yellow. And so there was no shortage of colors used. Every color was definitely used as we went through this research, whether it was in their background color, a secondary color, or a third or fourth color within the piece.
On one cover art, one image, how many different colors should one image of cover art have?
So over here, you can see all the different numbers of colors used. People use anywhere from 2 all the way to 8+. And the most popular was using 3 colors. I personally like using 3 colors. I have a little bit of a background in graphic design. And that was something we were always told when creating a logo or a business card. Stick to 3 so that it's very easy and simplistic on the eyes. But as we can see from the data, like a lot of these top 100s are using anywhere from 3 to 4, and some do use more than 8. And when they do use more than 8 colors, to keep in mind, this is a drawing. I can find some examples of these. When they have more of like that digital art and those illustration feels, like this one, Normal Gossip is a really great example. They have a lot of different colors. They're very bold, but it still is a very strong design. And so when using more colors, you just need to make sure you still have a simplistic design, and you need to really make sure that everything you do with those colors is intentional.
Yeah, definitely. Why do you think bold colors are so important?
I think they catch the eye. When you're scrolling and looking for a new podcast, and you search maybe a topic, maybe I want to listen to a podcast on true crime. When I'm scrolling through, if every single one of them has black background, white text, it's going to be kind of hard to like draw my attention and to really catch me into that podcast. Where if I see maybe some fun colors, it's going to catch my eye. Maybe you use like a neon or glow shadow effect, which was really popular in the data. It's going to catch your eye in that search result, and you're going to be more likely to click that image to listen to their podcast.
Can you show us an example of that effect that you were just saying was really popular?
So a lot of people have been using, this one's got a black glow shadow behind it. So she's got more of a drop shadow. But this kind of glowing text, I saw a lot in this research. With that neon, it kind of looks like those neon light signs on their podcast art. I believe there is one up here too. We've got this 100% E. It's got that glow text. She's got the white glow around true crime. Serialously has that pink glow text. And so that was just something that was really popular, a fun little special effect that I saw pretty often.
Haley, how much text should be in cover art?
I honestly found the less the better. Have your title in it, and that's about where it stops. It's very easy to read. It's very simple. This one is Seriously, it's a true crime podcast. And over here, we see that the podcast is with Annie Elise, but she doesn't include her name in that. She just has the title. It's not often that when we look up podcasts, we look up Dateline by Keith Morrison. We are just looking up that title. And so that's what really is going to catch the eye. It's going to give you an opportunity to have a larger font that catches the eye as well. And it's also going to just have a cleaner look without a ton of text-heavy information.
So what are the elements of text? The title of the show, what other elements of text might we consider putting onto the cover art?
A big one that I noticed is 88% of cover art uses a sans serif font. And so with that sans serif font, that means that there's not that little tail at the end of the letters. And so we can see in these two examples right here, Two Hot Takes and Seriously, it's those very boxy, bold letters. Those are very popular. As we kind of scroll through this, we see a lot of these sans serif fonts. This right here is an example of a serif, and we can tell that it's a serif because it's got these little tails on the end of the letter. It's a little bit of a fancier font, but it's a lot less common in podcast art, especially because a serif font is a lot less legible and it doesn't read as easily as a sans serif would. And so that was a big thing we noticed. And then we also noticed there was a lot of white text. And so this could attribute to the fact that we do have some of these more colorful and black backdrops that are so popular. But between a white text and a really readable sans serif font, those by far were the most popular. And additionally, 83% of cover art has all uppercase letters in their fonts. And so the entire thing is uppercase. The basement yard, it's all uppercase. And I again think this is just to help with readability.
Okay, how many of them, in addition to the name of the show, put the name of the host? Like you see on this one, it has Emma Chamberlain in addition to the name of the host above it, the Anything Goes.
Yeah, I don't have an exact stat on that, but as I scroll through, if they do include the name of the host, it's written like very, very small, and it's definitely not the focal point of their cover art.
Another question that a lot of people ask is, should the host name be the name of the show, or should the name of the show be related to the topic of the show, and then you say with the host's name? How many of these top 100 podcasts from Spotify named the show with the name of the host?
I do not think anyone except for like Mel Robbins, Dave Ramsey has The Ramsey Show, and then the Joe Rogan Show has his name. And so personally, if your name does not have a very big brand behind it, I don't think it's recommended to have your name as the name of your podcast show. I think having the with your name is a much better approach, because it gives them a title that they can look up and become familiar with. Because if you just name it after your show, people aren't knowing what your show's about. They're not going to know any information really on what you're going to be talking about. And so it doesn't really give them a really good SEO pull when people are searching for podcast, because they don't know who you are and they don't know what is your content on to pull up in the rankings.
So you're saying if you're popular and your name's like Michelle Obama, then you should consider naming your show with your name. But if you're not famous like that, then pick something else.
Absolutely.
What other popular elements should a podcaster use while maintaining a professional feel?
Yeah, so we talked about it a little bit earlier. There's that glow shadow effect a lot of people use. And one thing that's really trendy right now that I've seen with these are the desaturated photos. And so we can kind of see in Armchair Expert, his photo, it's not as vibrant. It's not a very like saturated, colorful, poppy photo. We also see in this image right here, their photos are desaturated into the red. When we scroll up a little bit with Trevor Noah, we see that his entire photo is in black and white. And Smartless, it's all the way down and desaturated. And so even in the Huberman lab, we see a desaturated black and white photo. And so one thing I noticed is, yes, we have a lot of people who include their photos into their podcast art, but they desaturate or put the photo into black and white so that the text really stands out more than their face.
Okay. Anything else that stood out to you in this research that you'd like to share with us?
I think we covered it all, Nathan.
Well, thank you very much. That was super valuable. I think I understand a lot better how to make effective cover art now.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me and talk about this cover art.
Okay, thanks. Have a great day.
You too.
Here are my key takeaways from this episode. Number 1, the most popular color palettes for podcast cover art are black, white, and red, followed closely by white backgrounds with blue or yellow accents. Number 2, the most common approach is to use 3 colors in the cover art design, as this keeps the design simple and easy on the eyes. Number 3, bold colors are important for catching the listener's attention when scrolling through search results. Number 4, it's recommended that cover art contain minimal text, focusing primarily on the podcast title for better readability and a cleaner look. Number 5, 88% of cover art uses sans serif fonts, which are more legible and easier to read than serif fonts. Number 6, white text is commonly used, particularly when paired with colorful or black backgrounds. Number 7, 83% of cover art features all uppercase letters in their fonts, which also contributes to better readability. Number 8, unless the host is already famous, it's generally not recommended to use the host's name as the podcast title. Instead, focus on a title related to the show's topic. And finally, number 9, desaturated or black and white photos of the host are popular design elements as they allow the text to stand out more prominently. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Podcasting Secrets. And I recommend you go check out podup.com. That's our podcasting platform to help you create, grow, and monetize your venture around a podcast.